is Mercer Williams' house, so Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. All of the events is based on the home right here. The house was built back in 1871 for a man named Hugh Mercer, who was the grandfather of Johnny Mercer. So if you've ever heard Jeepers Creepers, where'd you get those peepers? He wrote that. Now, it's really odd because neither Johnny nor Hugh actually lived inside of the home. It went kind of from person to person until 1969, and then you had Jim Williams kind of buy it. I mean, he didn't move in 1969, he moved in 1971, but for those 2 years that he wasn't inside of it, he actually just did refurbishment on the home, reconstruction, tried to kind of nicen it up to what it is now. Back in 1969, we have our first paranormal event inside, or outside rather, of the house, and we think that's probably because the construction started, and we know that construction a lot of times kind of brings your activity up. So picture this, you've got two 11-year-old boys and they're running around the streets right here, and they have their slingshots out and they're hunting pigeons. Now they see that a side door's open from the construction, so the two decide to go up to the roof up here and they hunt pigeons from up there. Now one of the boys is a boy named Tommy Downs. His friend is the only person that can attest for what happens next, and because of this event, he's had his name removed from everything. It is very hard to find anything about him. We searched for about 4 months, and the only thing we could ever come across was a first name, which was Daniel. So don't quote me 100%, it could be Daniel. That's the only thing we've been able to find so far. What he says is that while they were on the roof, Tommy entered this trance-like state, and he started walking towards the edge of the roof on the left side over there. Somehow he was pushed off of the roof with enough force to arch his back, which means you're definitely gonna come out here to the sidewalk, right? Not what happened. He actually was pulled back in the air and dropped onto one of the spikes on the side of the house. Now we'll go over there and look at it in just a minute, but I just want you to know that whenever he hit the spike, he was impaled by the head, and he was leaning over towards the house, and he didn't die on impact. So they actually had to saw the spike off, and he died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. We're gonna go over there and look at the spike, just so you can kind of see. Whenever we go over there, I want you to look up, and you'll be able to tell that the home almost overhangs the spikes a little bit. So how he fell that way is really, really, really weird. And I'm gonna have a newspaper article to show you when we get over there as well, just so you can kind of see the picture of what it looked like. But the main kind of situation that we got going on is obviously Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. It is the Jim Williams story. So 2 years after that event happens, he moves in 1971, and then 10 years later, on May 2nd, 1981, is where your big chaos kind of starts. So if you didn't know, Jim Williams is a restorer, so he was basically flipping homes. He was restoring about 50 homes in Savannah, and he had a lot of money, and he really liked to let people know that he had a lot of money. So what he would do is he would throw parties to show people of the city of Savannah, hey, this is who I am, this is what I have. So on May 2nd, 1981, he throws a party inside of the home, and he says after the party, a man comes into his office and he starts being really aggressive with him. So he's threatening to ruin his business and also ruin his reputation. Well, the man who comes in is Danny Hansford, and that's his business partner. So why you would want to ruin the business that you're a part of is a little bit weird. Weirder than that is the fact that they were business partners, because Jim Williams is a pretty clean-cut man, never been in trouble, never been arrested, nothing crazy. Danny Hansford is the total opposite. He's a little bit rough looking, and he's been arrested for everything under the sun. If you could do it and you could get in trouble for it, he had probably done it. Well, we find out that the two are lovers with each other, and it's a lover's quarrel that breaks out in the office instead. Now, the office is the bottom window on the left side. Now, inside of there, what he says is that obviously Danny Hansford comes in, and he starts getting so aggressive that Jim Williams is a little bit fearful. He says next, Danny Hansford pulls his gun out, takes a shot at him, and then completely misses. So in self-defense, Jim Williams takes his gun out, shoots Danny twice in the chest, and then once execution style in the back of the head. A little bit excessive, maybe, but either way, Danny Hansford dies from this event, and then Jim Williams has to go to trial. Now, his murder trial lasts for almost 10 years, which is a very long time, and if you didn't know, he is the first and only person in Georgia to ever be tried for the same crime 4 different times, which we know is technically not supposed to happen, right? So what's going on is Jim Williams is a really superstitious man, so he believes in hoodoo and voodoo and magic and things like that. So he calls on the help of a Gullah Geechee priestess. Now, have you ever heard of Gullah Geechee? Because I know you've done some of this a lot. Okay,
yeah,
so Gullah Geechee priestess. In the book and the movie, her name is Minerva. In real life, her name is Valerie Bowles. Okay, he basically tells her that if she does her hoodoo magic the night before the trial and he gets off scot-free, he'll give her a large sum of money. Okay, sounds good, right? So the first 3 times he goes to trial, she does her magic the night before. The next day, they end up appealing the case and starting over because there's big issues with the evidence. So you're thinking things like cops not wearing gloves when they came in to do any kind of forensics. You're thinking Jim Williams having gloves on when he shot the gun, meaning that there was no gun residue on his hand. Things like that. If you watch the movie, they turn it into one trial, but there's 3 issues with the evidence. That represents the first 3 times he went to trial. The 4th time they go to trial, they move it to Augusta, Georgia, because they think that they can't handle a case like this down here in Savannah, which kind of seems fair enough at this point. The night before the trial, she does her magic. The next day, within 2 hours of being in the courtroom, Jim Williams is found not guilty and all charges against him are totally dropped, which seems a little bit suspicious, but either way, he comes back down here and he's living his life as a free man and he's feeling pretty good. And then a couple weeks go by and Valerie comes to the house and she's knocking on the door and she's looking for her money. He basically tells her to go away. I'm not going to pay you. How can you prove that magic did this when obviously it was my lawyer, so on and so forth. My only advice is to not do that, but that's just me. Either way, she walks away, she leaves. Okay, that's totally fine. A couple weeks go by again. Jim Williams gets pneumonia out of the blue, and then he dies of a heart attack from complications of pneumonia, which we can say isn't really too weird, but it gets a little weird when you realize that he died in his office in the same position, in the same location that Danny Hansford actually died in. So what I'm thinking is she probably knew a little bit about what was going on because she was asked about this, and what she said is, I don't know what happened to Jim Williams, but what I do know is that wherever he is where he deserves to be. So
well, it's greed. It's too greedy.
Definitely. Well, my thing is, it's so wild that he was like, how can you prove that magic did this when it was my lawyers, you know, that kind of thing, when he so heavily believed in hoodoo. Like it was just kind of, I don't know, it's just odd to me.
He thought he could get away with it and save money.
Yeah, it's so crazy to me though.
You know, I mean, that's how people like that are.
That's so weird. Now, bottom floor is a museum. Obviously you can go in there, they do like a short little tour, but the top floor is what's interesting to me. It's where Jim Williams' sister lives right now.
Oh yeah.
So her name's Dorothy. I'm not sure how old she would be at this point, but she is up there, which is why we try to be quiet around the house, just because there's someone in there. But it's always really interesting to come into this area. I just think that's such a cool, weird kind of murder story. Now I will say one time I was over here and we played it back on our EVP later, but we had someone over here asking if Jim Williams was here and they got a yes. Now they were away from us, which is kind of weird. It's not like they were around other people and people were, you know, like whispering yes to try to get something weird to happen. She says that after she heard it, she asked Jim Williams to do something and she says she got tapped on the shoulder. It's not me, so I can't confirm or deny, obviously, but it'd be kind of cool. She wasn't very like,
yeah, I mean,
like showy. Do you know what I mean? Like the whole time she wasn't like, oh my God, no. You know what I mean? So for her to be kind of quiet and then be like, oh, hey Kelsey, show me later. I was like, oh, that's weird. I think that was kind of cool. But this is still, these floors right here or windows right here, excuse me, are still Jim Williams' office. So it's a pretty big area. If you look up, you can kind of see what I mean about the house and the spikes. The spike that he actually fell on would have been this one. And if you look at it from the side, you can see that it's bent backwards a little bit more and that it's been just like welded back on, which is how we have kind of determined what that is. But we also have this newspaper article, which makes it a little bit easier for us as well. So if you look at this, you have obviously Tommy, and then you have the home. Now this picture was taken from the other side of the street over here. Now I like to show this picture because the main thing that I get is people try to tell me maybe he hit a tree and went backwards. Well, if you look at this, there is no tree for him to hit and kind of go backwards. This line right here shows you how he would have fallen. So they're estimating that he started in the middle and then kind of curved outwards towards this spike.
It's kind of hard to say because it's, I mean, the roof line is pretty close to here, so.
The other thing that people tell me is like, maybe it was the wind. And I'm like, what kind of hurricane type winds do you think were happening that they didn't report about? But it's a little bit weird.
I'll tell you what, record right here and see what happens.
Okay, yeah.
So I'll let you ask a few questions because I don't remember all these people's names.
Okay.
So, okay.
Is Tommy here right now? Were you pushed off the roof or did you fall off the roof? Did your friend push you off the roof? That's always a good one.
Let me play it back.
Yeah.
Okay. Is Tommy here right now? Were you pushed off the roof or did you fall off the roof? Did your friend push you off the roof?
I did hear something just a little bit at the very end, but it wasn't much.
Okay. Is Tommy here right now? Were you pushed off the roof or did you fall off the roof? Did your friend push you off? Were you pushed off the roof or did you fall off the roof? Did your friend push you off the roof?
Like right there at the end. There's like a little something, but it's really hard to.
Yeah, the thing about it is, it's got so much ambient noise, out here. Let's try it again for right here.
Sure.
Just might as well. So the boy that was killed here, are you here right now with us? And if you are, can you tell us your name? The man that murdered the guy in this room up here, are you here? Background noise is so
All the
loud.
cars.
So the boy that was killed here, are you here right now with us? And if you are, can you tell us your name?
Right there.
The man that's here right now with us. And if you are, can you tell us your name? The man that murdered the guy in this room up here, are you here?
Yeah, there's cars roaring in the background. I mean, let me see. I played for one from last night. A lot of stuff on here will be scratchy. That's the thing. It picks up everything.
Mr. Frank, are you here? My name is John. Can you tell me your name? This was Frank.
No, that wasn't the one. Let's see. Well,
Frank, you're being awful quiet. Would you like to say something? If Frank's not in the room, is there anybody else in this room? As like a little child? We were told that there is a little girl in here by the name of Sarah.
that wasn't the one. What in the world? Try that one.
Do you want us to leave?
That's not one of them either. What in the world? Try that.
Okay. Is Tommy here right now?
No, well. The
I was
thing
like,
when
wait a
you-
minute, I recognize that voice.
Okay, so we're now in the basement.
Right there.
Control here. You were Doc.
I'll play it over.
Okay, so we're now in the basement. Frank.
Saying, yeah, I think.
Whoa.
Okay, so we're now in the basement. Frank. Control here.
Yeah.
You were a doctor. And our dad said you were a very good doctor. Did you save a lot of lives?
That's a whole lot of something right there.
Yeah. There's some more better stuff on here if you find
Okay,
it.
so we're now in the basement. Frank.
That's like,
That's the same
Yeah.
one.
We got something that time, and we think it might have said Abby. Is that true?
But there.
Maybe we're not hearing it correctly. Okay, so we got something that time, and we think it might have said Abby. Is that true? Maybe we're not hearing it correctly. Abby or Bobby? Were you laughing at us?
You go back one. If that's the same one.
Okay, so we got something that time.
Okay, that's 25 then. Play it back right there.
Okay, my name is John. Can you tell me your name?
Right there.
Yeah.
Okay, my name is John. Can you tell me your name?
Right there.
It does sound like Abby.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
My name
But you can hear something laughed after that. I think it's
After that.
laughing. Right there. Let me go that.
My name is John. Can you tell me your name?
And then it does sound like it laughs afterwards, whatever it is. That's so
That's what it
weird.
sounds like.
My name is John. Can you tell me your name?
That's where was it? That was in the Sorrel.
Yeah. Yeah.
What part were you in?
When we heard that laugh was in the parlor. When it said Abby.
Yeah.
And we could hear that, and when it happened, and then I told him, I said, I'm pretty sure that sounds like to me like a man like laughing.
Yeah. I mean, it
can't
definitely
tell.
didn't sound like a girl.
Yeah. But this recorder, that's what it does. It gets so
It
much.
picks it up like.
It gets so much
lot.
stuff, and a lot of stuff comes through as like a roaring sound,
Uh-huh.
and then all of a sudden you'll get some flashes of perfect words.
That's really interesting. That's why people want that one, right? That's why
Yeah.
they kind of
Yeah. Because you
get
can
that one.
pretty much. I mean, if we use this enough night, you're eventually gonna get some.
That's awesome.
So that's why it's so sought after, and that's why most of these ghost shows now, that even Ghost Adventures have one of these now.
That's really cool.
And all these groups pretty much do.
Did you have one like originally, or did you have to go get one? Did you have to work really
Well,
hard?
I got very lucky because this was about 10 years old, and when I got it was almost like new at the time. But at the time, 10 years ago, they were still selling for like $500 to $1,000 a piece 10 years ago. And so what happened was, I'm always on the computer with my work, all the time.
Yeah.
And so I would go into eBay and I would just type that model in, I'd type it in. Most of the time they were on there, buy it now. Well, one day I just got extremely lucky, and it said it was on an auction for started out like $1 something. Because the person who was selling
They
it,
didn't know what it
they didn't
was, yeah.
know. It was actually from Oregon, if I remember correctly, where it come from. And I sent him a message immediately. I was like, if you put that recorder on there for $50, buy it now, I'll buy it from you. Send me back. I got lucky. Send it back and say it's on there for $50, buy it now. So I bought it. Just got lucky.
Yeah, so lucky. Yeah.
And then it was kind of funny because when this person who said, was a girl who sent it, and she put a sticky note on it and said, "Thank you so much for paying $50 for this recorder." It was a
And
big,
you're like, "No, thank you."
It was a big smiley face on it. Because I guess she thought, who the hell would pay $50 for a damn
some kind of
recorder?
recorder,
Yeah, But so I thought I got lucky.
Beauty of people not knowing that it's good, right?
Yeah,
Wow, that's interesting. I like
but